Mr. Morgie. Welcome back. Another episode. After a month, it took me to edit through everything, finally get it done on holiday, all the stuff to get in the way.
Yeah, talking about hardcore and what's coming up, and then the video comes out 2 weeks after hardcore's already out. And
Yep. At least it snapshots what we were hoping for, and we'll go back and touch on that sooner than later. Wanted to follow up, make a pretty much a sequel to that past video that just went out in this last week. It was a lot. It was a lot of criticalness on the most recent expansion of Feywild, and primarily the
Yep.
Dryad raid that had dropped, and initial impressions and upsets and gripes with it. And one of the major things that was hit on with the Greater Fate Twisted chests, very low percent drop chance. You get a chest every 25 runs. You get an item every 75 runs. It's egregious on how ridiculous that was.
Yep.
And now they've implemented the ability to buy the Greater Fate Twisted items with runes. Woo!
Which that is good. I think that's a good change and a point in the right direction, but
It starts
still,
down the path. It's what we talked about. We wanted to see the runes at the very least change. I'm still of the mindset that it is so like the numbers just don't add up to
it's still
support.
bad. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely still not good, but at least it's moving in a slightly positive direction.
yeah, 100%. A good step. It's a point towards SSG and their adaptation to that here in the community.
They
Going
need a
out,
lot more fucking
going to go
points though.
many points need to be made. They get them where they can. One of the issues that I have with the rune system is that they implemented 2,500 runes, which is double the normal rune requirement, which makes sense considering they want to have chase items. But then it removes a bunch of player agency of, oh, I want to get these items, I want to get these chase items, but now I have to neglect all the normal items to get on top of invest so many hours and runs worth of runes into just
Yeah,
getting a singular item.
I do kind of wish it was just normal rune price.
I agree. It would still, I think, putting everything in the same pool, maybe having all the ungreater Fate Twisted items in the first chest, and then the optional chest to give only the greater Fate Twisted items, right?
Yeah, something like that seems like it'd be kind of good. Or even just like if you want to make the greater fate trusted thing cool, like put all the items in the one chest, but like because you have so many items, you're still looking for a lot of items, just make it like the greater fate trust is a guaranteed item, something like that. Like I think that's a cool idea, right? Then it like feels even better when you get one because you're like, oh, I'm getting a raid item for sure, and that
Right.
just that feels really good.
It does it. It
It
helps. Good.
it's a feel good system rather than a want more system.
Right. And it makes people actually want to engage with that and look for that instead of it just being a crapshoot of, oh, when am I going to get my chest? And if it shows up, oh, and then the huge disappointment the majority of the time when an item doesn't pop up for you. It
Yeah. I thought the items would be guaranteed from the Fate Twisted chest, but them not being is a little disappointed.
Yeah.
Pointing kind of, I thought it'd be like like actual Fate Twist chests, but
Yeah, I think that the Fate Twisted Chest as a whole, with the
it's cool.
Feywild system, I actually enjoy it quite a lot. It's farmable. It's not often. A very small percentage of the time are you looking for a item out of a quest, and then oh, you got a Fate Twisted chest. Oh, I didn't want a Fate Twisted chest. That happens very little, for a very small amount of the time, and so for the most part, you're really like rewarded for hitting those Fate Twisted chests, and you can
Hmm.
directly farm them and make believe and quests that are really fast.
Yeah,
Uh,
just doing like the Jin even.
yeah, the Explorer, lots to do, and then so many people are after them that you throw up an LFM and a group fills up really fast.
Yeah, like, and usually the people in the LFMs aren't after your specific item or whatever like that. So it's like it encourages people helping out each other. Just encourages more group play stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's all good.
yeah,
The Fate Twisted chest I think was a good addition.
I agree. I agree. I like that. Like that system doesn't adapt as well into raids as we found out. Most of the Dryad talk most of the hype and focus as of late has been on hardcore, where ourselves
Yeah, that's
included.
fun.
We pushed for the first week pretty hard with everybody. A few deaths here or there that threw things out, but
What
Rip
pretty much.
core.
just
One.
happened?
Wait, which time?
Yeah, I was
Magic got the
I was about to
rubber.
say a few deaths here and there, half of them were core.
He was
Yep.
setting the fucking
Yeah, and
blades,
so
dude.
hardcore
I
definitely
killed him.
That's
still
why you
like
can
so.
reflex save those.
As for some context, we had a group of 5, myself and Morgie,
Dude,
Logana,
yo,
my
core.
girlfriend, Hayden, who is Morgie's cousin, and then Core, who's just a mutual friend of everybody or a friend of everybody. And we all went in with builds. Morgie and I built up builders and entire gear layouts and builds for everything throughout all the levels, and how you're adapting things, all that. This is Core's first time on hardcore, while Hayden and Morgie and myself and Lori are gonna have a lot of past experience, ranging from hundreds to thousands of hours on hardcore. And it shows that Core did die at low level like what, 5, 6, and then again at 17, I believe, to some blades that he thought he could evade as a trapper or as an evader and couldn't do it.
Unlucky,
Lucky.
but we still like having him.
Yeah, 100%. It was
As
still
much shit as we give him. Sorry, we're using you as an example, core, but
it's
you're
a
a
good
good
example.
example. What can I say?
Yeah, it shows that hardcore is still
even
punishing.
for experienced players with like core has wings and shit like that. There's still stuff that people will die to.
Yep. There's a lot that goes into DDO, and having and currently on live, what your focuses are around running through quests really fast in heroics, and then doing high difficulty quests on with very powerful gear sets and loadouts on at like Reaper 10s and raids and such. But on hardcore, all that priority changes. You don't have as much power going through heroics. You have to take a lot more time and understand all the different quests, understand the different mechanics, not only with your own character, with others, but with the mobs. So and what champions? Speaking of champions, new champions with the hardcore, what champions are suddenly really highlighted. And so there were what, six new champions.
There's more than 6. There's a lot.
1, 2, 3.
A lot of them
5,
are
6.
very negligent after a point, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, so there's nine new champions. You have a anti-melee champion that has blurry and dodge, and incorporeal, all that. You have a one that just throws some curses on you, does a little bit extra damage. Of
Stain's
One-
kind of hurt because the chaos damage.
yeah,
That's the one you're talking about.
yeah, Stain's extra chaos damage can get really spicy, much like any of the added damage fire ice ones on live, where you get hit with a frost lance or a scorching ray, and every single proc has 100 or extra double damage applied to it. Then that can start to hit you really hard, really fast.
Yeah, getting
the-
shotgunned.
Yeah, the silent one, which I think is I think that's my favorite mechanically, and what the
Yeah, I
potential
agree.
was.
I don't think it completely panned out, but I think it like the potential of it was good.
Yeah, and which is an
It's
anti.
kind of,
Good, yeah.
you know, I was going to like kind of another champ. It's kind of like the legs champ. I think was a cool idea and concept, but too many things negate it and made it a complete non-factor for most people.
Yeah, so the silent one champion was very geared towards caster hate. It had reflective damage whenever you cast a spell at it. Whenever it deals damage to you, it prevents you from casting spells for 18, 20 seconds. High spell resistance and high magic resistance, which has some mechanics that you can just spell it if you can get past a spell resistance and get that magic resistance off. So it's cool mechanic. It doesn't scale very well. It doesn't have like an aura of anti-caster, so people have to look around spacing. The reflective damage is pretty negligible. It did like 10 damage at low levels, and then by the time you get more HP, it just doesn't scale. Then what more you just mentioned, the Valara's Legs, which is an insta-kill fear dot. If you get damaged by it, not only if you're standing around it, does it strip your fear immunities off, like Lionheart, and remove fear, but if you get hit by it, there's a chance that you would get a fear dot on you, and you have 10 seconds or 8 seconds to remove that dot or instantly die slash get a chunk of bane damage on top of you.
I wish the only way to I wish it all like the fear immunity and stuff didn't block it, and you had to remove it with remove fear.
I completely agree. So what currently the meta is around it is that A,
Paladin.
it doesn't proc very often, and B, when it does, so many paladins are running around that have innate fear immunity, and it doesn't apply a fear to you.
Or
So
ASMR that just auto dispels, or Tiefling that just has fear immunity. It's just there's
yeah,
a lot of
they use the
things that make
husk.
it completely negligent.
Yeah, they use the husk of fear as a stand-in for the effect, the type of effect, instead of creating its own uh, running out of time effect. That the only way to do it is interface with a item that you get that you buy, or just a straight remove fear thing. It mechanically works as a normal fear, and so it gets left in dust a lot of the times. One of the champions that has the most impact is the symbiote.
Yeah, the symbiote is probably the second biggest killer on hardcore this season. Symbiote champs, except obviously again Paladin, excruciatingly powerful, immune to symbiote champs as well. Paladin's just like the MV fucking P of this season, but now symbiote champs I think definitely take the number 2 slot for kills in hardcore this season, which number 1 is taken only by one thing:
What's that?
the mimics.
The mimics. Yeah. So symbiotes, just to add some to it, what they do is that whenever you hit them, you get a plague dot on you or a disease dot on you, and whenever they hit you, you get a disease dot on you, and that's where a lot of the damage comes from. And once you stack up to 3 times, whenever you get a new dot applied, it immediately ticks for a normal tick. And so you get 3 dots on you, and then you get a scorching ray. You're immediately getting 3 of those ticks, and they do huge amounts of damage. There's been entire party wipes with them, a ridiculous amount of damage that can suddenly pop up. Disease immunity ignores that. Thus, Paladin and why Paladin negates 2 of the most potentially risky champions this season. But
Another thing to note about them is whenever they die, they create other symbiotes near them, and it can actually go to red names and shit like that. So you can have red name champions, like one of the guys that has played the most this season, Apocalypse Dom, has had many a times where he's fought red name champs, and well, because he's a paladin, has some has one of the better healers in the game playing with him. He a couple times he was able to just stay in and tank it.
other times you have to get out and reset depending on the red name that you get supplied to.
Yeah.
And sadly, with that prolific on death effect, sort of like a Vengeance Reaper, it is very localized about the size of a negative energy burst from a wizard or cleric, and it doesn't happen all the time, and it applies non-consistently. If it was
Yeah,
just
it's a little glitchy.
if it was just a big Vengeance Reaper pulse that just hits everybody within a certain area, I would really enjoy that. A smaller area than Vengeance Reapers, something very localized around the champion. But so if you kill it accidentally in the middle of a pack, then suddenly you have 5 different champs that are running at you, and with that plague dot, again, if they introduced its own separate system where it wasn't just categorized as a disease, and so much removes it, like paladins. If it was its own system,
It'd be
and
extremely deadly, yeah.
right, and adding that deadliness, we really enjoy that deadliness in hardcore. It's what we value on it. Remove power, add challenge, and send people in. The other champions,
Definitely.
nothing too big. Some damage reduction ones. The corruptor can actually get like a big Bioshock DR, and at higher levels can negate hundreds of damage, and it can be a little spooky with it. Another one, you just get a little bit of damage once it hits, or damage reduction once it hits half health. There's an ooze one, which I wish was like just a rusty. You hit your weapon against it 4 times and your weapon breaks, and so it really prioritizes like having blue shine weapons, having crystalline weapons,
Yeah,
forcing you to play around it. And altogether, I really liked their idea.
Ideas.
Yeah, and in the previous seasons of hardcore, Standing Stone Games had prefaced that hardcore was a testing ground for a champion slider of, oh, I just want to tweak this and turn it up or tweak this and turn it down. And so you can see now with this being the second time that there are separate champions and new champions on hardcore, that that slider idea is really coming to fruition, and a little bit more tweaking on the execution of it, what is available on the system side, having the fear dot be separate, a different mechanic that can't just be negated by what is already there. Um,
Hmm.
Things like that would be really, really cool to see, and
I
then
mean,
like a cycling system on live.
even just something like think like the Fear Reaper dot, right? It's a completely different thing. Like only gets removed by like unyielding sovereignty and stuff like that.
Yeah, and having it be like you have to just interface with it. You have to be prepared to deal with that specifically, as opposed to just having something as a part of your kit, right?
Hmm.
And then
I don't think
seeing
having think yeah
hmm?
yeah. Never mind. I don't
Okay.
know where I was going with that.
Having or seeing SSG introduce and cycle out champions and potentially reapers on the live servers would be really cool. It'd keep things a little bit more spicy. Seeing different rotations this month, this couple weeks is these sets of reapers at these levels. Have a mirror to a doom, and so it's either a doom or another one, a vengeance or another
That'd be
one.
neat.
Yeah, and do that with the same champions, which they have a host of champions now from Hardcore Season 2 and now 4 of, okay, with this time, we also have this matchup of champions, and this is, you know, what's going on. This is what you have to work with. It'd be really cool to see that mixing and matching and a little bit more of a sandbox for SSG to fine tune is not only fine tune the champions on when they're out, but also be able to throw in ideas. Okay, we want to try this new champion, and we just throw it into the rotation, and we find, we do not like this at all. No, screw this. Immediately delete it, and then just let the rotation finish up, and then never have it come back. It also gives the community a good way to communicate. We do like these things. We don't like these things, or the idea of creating a community champion or community reaper
That'd
that
be cool.
yeah, that
Like
everyone
oh,
can
there's
come
a
up with.
like a bunch of people make ideas or whatever like that, and then eventually a bunch of people like vote on them or something like that, and vote on like what new Reaper stays in the game.
Yeah,
Like a lot of their SSG's issue is they have like they're low on manpower and stuff like that. And it's like a lot of things like this. Your community can design a lot of your stuff if you just listen to them. Like,
oftentimes in any game, the players play more and interact more with these systems that are put out by the developers than the developers can just do. There's more players than there are developers, and the players that are there that are really passionate and devoted to that game will put in more time than the developer, any developer at any time could, right? You can put in thousands of hours into something versus the developer can only put several hundred. They have the power
mhm.
to change things, but they may not have the macro understanding of what exactly is going on.
Yeah, definitely. I
And so
agree with that 100%.
I really like that idea of SSG starting to outsource to the community, and just putting in some sort of system where quarterly or every half a year there's a month long event where people can put in their own ideas, and then they go through and pick the top 10, and then it's every week, every few days, it gets narrowed down to the final two, and then people have like a week to vote on which one they want, and then you
Yeah, that'd
go
be
from there.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
That'd be
and
something
then
I would like to see.
with the champion slider, it seems to already be part of part of that system already seems to be there. What actually would it look like to implement mechanics
Hmm.
or tweak things that are currently uh, in the game?
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think that'd be something good to see from them. Unfortunately, I don't think it's something we will ever see, but I think that would be another like point in the right direction if they would do something like that and get the community involved in more things. Because then you also see a lot more sides. Like you see every side of the community. Like you don't just see your limited view on things. You see like what people are saying from the hardcore side, from the casual side. You're seeing all of it.
Definitely, yeah. Everyone has their own niche that they fill within the community. If someone who is like myself and puts in a lot of time to make things public, create content, create uh, builds and things that I enjoy from that perspective, and versus someone who doesn't like that, who likes to just take builds and run with them or interface in that way, or where they're at. I play in high reapers and raid pushing versus someone who doesn't do that, plays in medium reapers. They may go, okay, these champions and these reapers are much more difficult for me than I would uh, judge them in that way. So having all aspects represented, talking about would be amazing. You're muted.
All I said was definitely.
Yeah. Okay. One thing that you did touch on in the champions, the most deaths out of all of hardcore ways to die.
Mimics.
Yeah. So this hardcore season, it's the permanent mimic of.
Yeah, dude, these guys hurt.
What
Are
the
we gonna get all the
fuck?
leveling? Let's go.
Loot, thank God.
A dwarven axe? What the fuck? Oh, it's a mimic! It's a mimic! We have fucking mimics. Enough talk! Heal enough talk!
I can't roll. I'm sticky.
Help! 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 I'm dead. Oh my God! Enough talk's dead.
I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm dead too.
Core's incapped. Core's dead. Event, and just for the mimic event in general, every chest has 10% chance, roughly, to
I
spawn
think
as
it's much higher than 10.
I think it's 10, 20. I could see it being.
I think it's
20.
like 33.
Um,
I feel like they upped it with the last patch too. I was getting a mimic like every other chest.
yeah. So it's a sizable percent, right? This isn't just a greater
Yeah.
fate twisted or fate twisted, 2% chance. It's you're going to have to interface with this, no matter if you try to or not. And what the mimics do is that they spawn and pretty much immediately sprint forward, slowing everybody around, and then whoever they focus on, they start spewing acid dots at them. So those are the big things. The slows you down, slows attack speed, and the acid, while it doesn't do as much damage in lower dots, once you start getting to like 5, 6, 7 stacks, it starts to really, really chunk, and it hits like 5 to
It
10
starts to hit
times.
pretty hard. The thing about mimics though is was really only a concern at low level. As soon as we hit like level 5-ish or whatever, it was mimics became a non-factor in everything we did, which is kind of like, oh hey, another mimic.
Which we
at a
had
point- Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Okay, we had a composition with caster favorite soul and a DC lock that was playing as a damage or not lock wizard that was playing as damage spec while leveling, and so we had CC, we had high burst damage, we had high single target damage to really just sort of walk through whatever it was,
And smites.
and smites for when they crit, they obliterate them.
Ah, fuck. What was I gonna say? I lost it.
Mimics low levels.
Yeah, I don't know. I lost it.
Okay, yeah. So with the mimics though, at low levels, you got to the point where if you didn't have your
Oh,
party, okay, go ahead.
It was just like it got to a point where we were like at even like level 6 or whatever. We're like, come on, mimic, be a mimic.
Yeah, we started wanting to interface it with more, and especially like they had the mimic vendor. So a normal mimic event on live would come with a mimic vendor that you could buy a potion and chug it and not spawn a mimic. That was introduced on the first patch, on the first day, and they didn't want that there. They wanted you to interface with these mimics, which I think is a fantastic idea. It forces people to interact with the mechanics of the season. Fantastic.
Yeah.
As a byproduct of that mistake of having the potion being available to buy, the mimic vendor wasn't in until a week after, and so the mimic tokens that you buy, you can exchange for cloaks and belts that do like very, very good things. Lots of health on the belts, lots of hemp and sticky goo guard on the cloak, and it creates another resource effectively for the season, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I like the mimics overall. I think it was a really good thing to see. Like, and it's like at a point now, it's like you see a mimic death, you're like,
Yeah,
and it's
Yeah.
like even though like we were literally the first people on the server to die to mimics.
yeah.
Like we were
Um,
the first people in, and we were the first deaths to the mimics. Like we found that out for everyone. We went to Bringing the Light on Elite and spawned a mimic, and everyone except me died.
Yep, everyone got absolutely clobbered, and that suddenly. Oh, suddenly a mimic. How do you deal with this thing? I myself have never done a mimic event before, and so this is my first interaction just with mimics in general on a active server.
I
And
didn't know
so
they hit so hard.
yeah, exactly. I had no clue. And they're day one, like first entire week, even to this day, anyone that's like level 5 or below has a high chance of dying to a mimic. And day one was just filled. The entire death feed was just death to a mimic, death to a mimic, death to a mimic. Lots of level 3s, lots of people dying. Korthos from the early chests. It really, and because it was such a big focus, it really pushed people out of their comfort zone if they wanted to play more solo, right? They either had to change up their build entirely to be able to deal with that mechanic, or they had to start interacting with other players or waiting for people and starting to really enforce that social aspect of the season, which was already such a positive.
Yeah, it was really good. I
That's
like
one of
yeah. Bottom line is Mimics very good, like very good, and
yeah, and seeing more of an event or for previous or for subsequent hardcores, seeing something that is such a standout element, even if it's only for a specific part of the game, if it could, or a specific part of like the entire experience, if it could be integral in the entire time, that'd be amazing to see as well. I'd love to see.
that'd be pretty cool.
One thing that, like I said, the Mimic event does very well is enforce that sense of community, which hardcore is historically very, very good with. You get people from all the different servers onto one effectively mega server. Everyone is on the same playing field. Roughly, the store is still available, still a gripe. We'll touch on that in a little bit later. Um, Everyone is there. They make their character. Everyone's low. Porthos is filled, both snowy and sunny. Everyone has different strategies for, skip Korthos early to get more experience in the harbor, try to do Reapers, try to do Elite, all the different things. And you can find yourself a group of people that fits that mold that you're looking for very well.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you like about the sort of community aspect, or what draws you to hardcore specifically?
I mean, what draws me to hardcore specifically isn't actually necessarily the community stuff for me, because I've always been more of a competitive style type player. The stuff that draws me is just the challenge, like of everyone's in the same playing field for the most part. Like no one has, everyone starts with on a first type character, which I really like. It's not like you're gonna have people that are racial comp, Uber tunes, shit like that. And so it's all based on like skill for the most part. Obviously, you can buy some stuff in the store that expedites the process, like tomes, you can stuff like that.
XP,
But
etc.
yeah, I mean like, even I myself bought a tome this season, so I can't really, 'cause I would prefer if the store wasn't on there because I think it would make the leaderboards a lot more meaningful and stuff like that. But while it's there, I did take advantage of it, right? Like
Completely, and I think that's a completely fair thing to do. SSG has provided a service, and people take advantage of that service. It's why many people play DDO comparatively to other games.
but yeah, like mostly just the challenge of it, right? Like just not be able to die is something I really like. Like I have still never lost an important character in hardcore. I like to think that's mostly because I'm a decent player and stuff like that. Of course, it's also partially luck. I know a lot of very good players this season have unfortunately died to lag and stuff like that, and it's like really killed their
It's
enjoyment of the
heartbreaking to
season and
see.
stuff like that. It's like really bad. There's some clips I've seen from other people's streams where they're just locked up and then all of a sudden you see ding and they're just dead, and it's really really unfortunate. Like one of the better players in the world was looking to be like first on the 5K boards and died to lag and Shrine Welcome.
Yep, which is notoriously laggy quest specifically, and then couple that with server lag with hardcore lag. With
Rip Gisty.
Yeah, Rip Gisty.
Rip, yeah, boy.
Then Speedy shortly after, duo's partner, person who's running with
Yeah.
the Tom.
Yeah, Speedy killed himself though in honor of Gisty.
All that there, and that is one thing. Like I enjoy the challenge as well, but one of the things that I try to do to address and to circumvent that challenge or to interface with it, I guess not circumvent, but interface with it, is build a static group, right? We're a part of a static group. You get consistent players, you get consistent times. Surround yourself with a well-rounded team composition, and that helps try to minimize all of that risk while still challenging yourself to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and when you do lose someone, it is up. It throws everything into
It's awkward because you're like, well, what do we do?
yeah. Do we try to go back and try to carry them back up on a new character? Do we just keep going on and then further that gap? And because we're in a group and they're on their own, gap keeps getting bigger and bigger unless they put in more time in the static group. It's a wonky spot. And so when it comes to like player deaths, where it's their own doing or lack of knowledge, whatever it may be, like I died at level 8, right? Was it 11?
Yep.
Something like that.
It was 11 because
Yeah.
we were doing
And-
sevens.
Yeah, TOE. I was doing the normal path that I always do in TOE, and suddenly random spawn traps, ran right through the middle of it all, a bunch of poison traps into myself, just blew it up.
Died instantly.
Yep, that was it. There's no chance for anybody to do anything differently. And I completely own those deaths at this point. It's a little upsetting to die just to die, period. But it was because of my own doing. I died majority of
Yeah.
the time in season 1 due to lag, due to things that were on the server side that I had no control over, and that was really, really frustrating. That's where those deaths, if you're in a static group and your entire group locks up and then one person dies because of nothing that y'all had control over, it just feels that much worse and takes so much
Yeah.
power away, wind out of your sails.
I know it's like beating a dead horse addressing lag all the time with SSG, but it's like it's the most important thing that needs to be addressed in the game. So until it gets fixed, I'm going to say something about it in every single video.
Yep,
I know it probably annoys some people, but it's a very important issue that needs to be fixed and something that needs to be addressed,
I
in my opinion.
completely agree. And
Like-
whatever has to be done to get to that point until it is addressed, then you have to keep coming up with things like what can we do to mitigate, what can you do to do all these things, and then continue to provide that feedback of this was working, this is not working. Which, speaking of mitigating lag and things that the SSG has done in the most recent patch, they reworked Double Strike, and with the express intent to reduce the amount of damage text on screen to stop like quote unquote DPS lag of too many numbers going off at the same time. So they're just trying to condense everything down. What are your thoughts on that lag while we're talking about that, and then we'll go into the changes.
I believe it didn't actually really help the lag very much. I don't just looking at it and stuff like that. It at least, of course, I'm not playing a character with high double strike or anything like that, so I don't know. But from everything I've heard, it didn't help lag at all.
With high DPS lag in
I've heard it.
raids.
I've heard it helped it minorly, but I'm not a good person to get information on that side of things because I haven't played live in a while and I'm not playing anything
Yeah, we're both
high
on that.
DPS and hardcore stuff like that. So it's not like a thing I should really probably talk about too much.
That you could feel on it.
I don't like to talk when I'm uninformed,
100%. Completely respect that. I like the idea of what it does, and if SSG is saying, hey, that lines of text is causing lag, and so they're condensing all the lines of text for melee DPS, cutting it in half, and for range DPS, cutting it by 4 times, right? You could throw 4 arrows or throw 4 shurikens or whatever it is, and now you're only just seeing one line. Ideally, like theoretically, it's supposed to that would help. And DPS lag, especially when you have an entire raid party bashing on one boss, definitely has been present in the past. Like Maury said, we're both playing a lot of hardcore, not playing a lot of live, and so we don't see or feel exactly how those changes are going. I hope that it has helped, but we shall see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
With the
We're still. Oh,
Hmm?
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the root cause of that change was the double strike changes. So what are your thoughts on that?
I was still talking about the lag in general,
Okay. Yep.
Just crazy to see things like I already used him as an example once in this video, but Dom, who's put an absurd amount of hours in the hardcore already or something, who fortunately has only died once, but he died to lag, which is just a crushing death to see when there's nothing you can do. But like,
Yep.
luckily he's played a bunch more hours, stuff like that, and hasn't died to it again. But he has had many close encounters to it, so it's like, even as one of the most skilled players in the world, sometimes there's just nothing you can do, and you just die because of the lag, and that's really, really
Yeah, and
unfortunate
so
to see.
let's put some context around Dom. What is he trying to achieve? What is the goal that he set for himself this hardcore season?
Dom is trying to get wings, so 5.6 million experience RXP on hardcore, which is an insane goal. But like, I think if anyone's gonna get it, it's gonna be Dom. Dom is, I think, arguably the best player currently in DDO, and is putting in an absurd amount of time, and quite frankly, buying 50 pots all the time and stuff like that, because doing it without it, I think, would be impossible. And it's incredible to see whenever someone is doing something like that. Whenever you like lose, I can't remember how much time he lost, but he did lose a second life character in like the first week or whatever. He lost a bunch of time, and he's already coming back to be back on track. It's really, really cool to see.
He's up to his mid 30s in Reaper points. He's on like a 4-day rotation where he'll level from 1 to 20 in a day, 20 to 30 in a day, and then have 2 days to do all of his first times, so all the first times that he wants to do. Yep. And then raids for raid filigrees and potentially runes later on, but mostly raid filigrees, and then reset it, do it again. It's a large investment. And while I am very diametrically opposed to the store in general, and especially on hardcore, seeing someone take it upon themselves to push that to the limit and see what is actually possible. Yeah. With the resources that you do have available that SSG have provided is amazing to see. It's monumental, and
it's incredible what he's doing.
If he reaches his goal, it'll be a milestone that will probably never be broken.
I don't think he'll ever get beaten.
Yeah, so having to see that side of things, and just and being a part of that, right? Or you're pretty much full geared at level 30 on hardcore, and you're able to play and be a tank, pseudo tank / healer for him while he's
I've only gotten to run with him once, but it was a really fun experience, stuff like that. Of course, I played with Dom a lot on live. Dom's a good friend at this point and stuff like that, so getting to help him out as much as I can is nice. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to help very much lately, but
as
it's definitely cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, he'll be around for a while doing this. It's going to take several months trying to push to the end of the hardcore season to get it done, and so there'll be lots of time to go up. And he's been really giving with his groups, right? Because he's running with himself and a core group of players that not everyone's on at the same time, and so he'll provide carries for people that are level 20.
It's really cool. He's just like getting a bunch of people their 10-point cloaks and stuff like that, which is again part of the cool community aspect we're talking about. Like, a player is helping get a bunch of people that may have never gotten their rewards that they wouldn't get before. It's really cool to see, and something pretty admirable.
Yeah, and for some people, they want to actively avoid that, and that's really great for themselves as well. Or they want to go through and build up their characters, get all their experience on their own, get all their gear on their own, and then sort of push through, sort of crawl through at their own pace. And so for those that don't want to do that, and then that's available now, which in the previous seasons, you had to know exactly who was at endgame to provide those boosts. Some of my friends would just get to 20, and then I would have one spot open and do a set of dailies. And then get them 10-point cloak, and then they'd be done because they had no interest in actually interfacing with the season, but were interested in the cloak or the 10-point reward. Which, speaking of rewards, talk about the 10-point cloak, which you do have.
Yeah, the 10-point cloak is fucking rad. I think the other rewards are not so good, but the 10-point cloak, I think they did very well on. I think the 10-point cloak looks fucking awesome.
It has great flow to it. It's long, it's flowing, and it has really high res textures, which is amazing to see.
When I first saw it, I wasn't like completely impressed. I thought it was cool, but then when I actually got it and put it on, I was like, wow, this looks really fucking good. Like, it feels really good, stuff like that. It'll be hard to get something to really match it, but I love the way it looks.
It is historic with hardcore that the rewards are often standalone in their own place and don't have a ton mix and matching, but that does make it so when you do find something that matches, can really like it'll match really well, and it start to really accentuate and highlight those
Yeah, it's awesome.
rewards. Like your set, one of your favorite sets on live integrates the Hardcore Season
Yeah.
2 cloak with the cicada wings on the
Yep.
side.
And I love it, and using the fucking and I use the whatever color wings, the yellow wings, and it just looks really good with it.
Yeah,
Gold.
white wings.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah,
I
white
haven't
and
played,
black.
I haven't played on live in a minute, man.
White and black setup, Mistfall on Orb, fun stuff like that. And so the other rewards, since we're on Reaper rewards, let's talk about the Reaper pet, the little Tharak pup.
Man, they had a lot they could have done with the Tharak pup, and unfortunately, it just kind of didn't pan out the way that I hoped it would have. Like, they could have just taken like ZZ, for example, and scaled it down and made like a ZZ pet or something like that, instead of like making some pretty low textures in the pet. Of course, I do think it's better than the other hardcore season pets, but I think the other season hardcore pets were also very bad.
You had the season 1 pet, which was under the Reaper, which is a Blood Reaper. Interesting. I like that one the most personally. Season 2 pet was the ugly War Dretchling. He's
Stanky leg.
Stanky leg. Yeah, he's a Dretch, not super highlighted. He got replaced pretty fast with the most recent anniversary event. Just stripped off all of his armor, called it a good one. Yeah, the season 3 reward was the Archon, which is just a little floating ball. It's not. It's nice. It's new, unique, which I enjoy and I value for those rewards. But there's nothing really that drawing to it. And so this one, yeah.
And they did something like, like for example, one of its tricks or whatever is making it breathe fire. Like I don't understand why you'd make a Tharak hound breathe fire instead of making it breathe acid. Like, at least keep it like thematic to what the thing actually is supposed to do. Like,
yeah, it seems to just be a little bit of sort of a amalgamation of mushing together of ideas that didn't fully push out. And it's a subjective experience, a subjective opinion as well, because it is a cosmetic, right? So it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't for people that for like us who are going to go for the reward just because we enjoyed that challenge and reaching that goal. It doesn't drive us to get to that reward. Like say when I was playing season 1 of Hardcore and I wanted to get to those footprints, and so I put in 100 hours within 8 days and got the footprints. Was the third person in the entire community to get the footprints, and looking at those and being like, wow, this is unique. There's nothing like it, and I still put footprints on every single life that I do because it's just
I mean,
unique.
like, they have doors for things that people would love, like reskin the footprints, make them a different color, and I guarantee you a ton of fucking people are going to go after those footprints because that's still a cool fucking reward. Keep the season 1 ones exclusive by changing the color or something, but like, I promise you way more fucking people will go for these rewards if you do something cool like that. Like,
yeah, and that's something that is, well, we'll come back to sort of like that train of thought here in a moment, and get the rest of the rewards done first. Going in reverse order, level 20 cloak.
I think it's not bad, but I think it gets completely fucking dwarfed by the 10 Reaper point cloak, which I think is okay because obviously the 10 point Reaper one's better, but I think it just shouldn't have been another cloak. I think the 20 rewards should have been something completely separate.
Seasonal.
It just gets overshadowed by like the 10 Reaper point cloak. Why would I ever use the 20 level 20 cloak when I have the 10 point Reaper one? I'd rather have something I can use in context with it.
Yeah, one thing that I do like about having the 20 cloak and then the 10 point Reaper point cloak is they are completely different cloaks. They're not trying to serve the same purpose. One is short, one is like has two distinct sides of it versus being a more traditional cloak, long flowing. So they do serve different purposes. And in their previous seasons, they do have this precedent of level 20 sash, 10 point cloak, 20 point pet. This is something that we touched on in the last episode of what we wanted to see for hardcore. What rewards we really wanted to see and expand upon, and having these like set in consistent things is okay, but adding something more in would have been really, really cool to see, which sadly didn't happen.
I agree. Like, leave more wanting instead of just kind of doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And So continue going down. You have the 5,000 favor
Eh,
reward, 5,000 total favor.
eh.
Yeah, another
It's bad.
horse.
It's bad. It's bad. It's terrible.
Yeah.
You had so many options. You could have again made a Thorak Hound mount. Would have been fucking sweet.
Beholder, doing Exoria stuff.
Like any of these fucking things, man. Like, why'd you just take a fucking horse and add some fucking jingle bells to its nose and be like, ah, yeah, this will do. Like, come on, man. Like that just felt like really no effort. I was extremely disappointed by the 5K horse.
I do like the saddle and sort of war armor on it. It sort of has the same sort of textures as the 10-point cloak. Sort of higher res, like feels like sort of a leathery. It feels like a material, which is really nice. But then the execution of how it all came together really, really underwhelming. Like Maury's saying, where
Yeah.
you had these tentacles sort of coming off the face and a little like jingle bells on the end, but they weren't dynamic. They didn't move. They weren't like put a mind flare head on the top of it with the tentacles that already is coded,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
If you would have actually made the horse like a mind flayer, that'd been way fucking cooler. Like just reskin the horse's face. Like I still wouldn't have been like overly eccentric about it, but that still would been way fucking cooler than just some fucking jingle bells.
Yeah, right now it's a feeling of wanting for the horse as opposed to being like, okay, I can see what you're going for and I can respect that. If there's not much respect that you can give, or at least we're giving to the
And to talk about just the lack of effort, like they literally at first it said 6. Like, how the fuck does that like make it through your like QR, man, or whatever it is, like QA, quality assurance? Like, how does that make it through? Like, you don't just look and say, hey, wait a fucking minute, that's not a 4, that's a 6. Like, I don't know, that was the dumbest fucking thing.
The hardcore seasons, the DDO chosen to do them Roman numerically, right? So an I for 1, II for 2. Currently with season 4, which is IV, and on the horse on one side, they like with much of their gear, they have that season 4 icon with the flare icon. But instead of taking that and looking at it on the other side and having it be a 4, they just mirrored it, and so it became VI, which is 6, like Morgie's saying, and so it shows a like unrefinedness that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in like
it showed that they just didn't like actually care to make the fucking reward any good. Like, I mean, if you were caring more about it, that wouldn't make it through your fucking QA.
Right. Much like the musical part of Demigod and the Dryad, right? There was a lot of passion and effort and energy put into that, right? A lot of the developers were very excited for it. They really put a lot of stuff into it. Missed the mark a bit because they sacrificed mechanics and replayability for that.
The instrumental was good, but yeah, I'll go into that.
We've talked on it before. We talked on it last episode. We have gripes with it. It just shows a consistent trend line, though. That's what we're highlighting now.
Yeah. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah, and so the last reward, the 1750 cloak, the collar, which I think is the most unique out of all of the rewards.
It could have been awesome. I think it looks really cool, but on like a lot of the female models and shit like that your hair clips through the collar and just completely ruins it.
Yeah, so think of a popped collar, but instead of it just going around your neck, it goes above your head, and so it has this big collar, this big like Strahd count collar, and
it's like what mind flayers have on the back of their head.
Right. It has a collar. Who would have thunk? And has this like mind flare, brain texture that are actually on that covers your shoulders. So it's really unique, and there's no other model like it the entire game. The mechanical issue of not having a tested model is that, like Maury's saying, when you're just a female character idling, the placement of the collar is so far forward that your hair clips out the back of it, which is very breaking in immersion. It ruins sort of the look of it. And then on almost all characters, if you have any hair, when you are moving, you'll clip through it because of how it sits on the shoulders.
But like I think it's still like looks cool, but the hair thing just breaks it. Like for example, on Hayden's character, he's bald, and the collar looks fucking awesome on his character. Like
It
so, like it
highlights
had
it highlights
potential, and like it still has potential if they can go back and fucking fix it. I would
which
actually like satisfied with that 1750 reward. I think that would get a plus for me.
yeah, which they have done in the past. Flashback to season 1 hardcore with the footprints. Those were client side only. They weren't server side. Like when I got my footprints, only I could see them. And that was it felt poorly to do that. It seemed like they were worried about performance issues, things like that. They eventually implemented it to being server side so everyone can see them. And not only do you have a flex to show, hey, I'm one of the 150 max people that got this, but this is like for the season, I got this. Look at this. It's amazing to see. They've can listen to the feedback and go in and change that. And seemingly for the collar, moving the model back some, moving when it is moving, when you're running with it, making so it doesn't go forward and clip into your head. Seems like relatively easy things to fix on the surface. I'm not a coder. I'm not a part of their system. Working with the code of a 15 plus year old game. And so ideally it does get fixed, it does get addressed. It'd be great to see more communication on SSG's part in general, but specifically with this and going, yeah, we're looking to adapt that and change that and refine it out.
Yeah, I really hope that they do fix it because I actually I would like that reward if it was fixed.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely agree. I enjoy it. I like wearing all the rewards whenever I get them on the hardcore season. I don't know when because it is unique. I could see implementing it on a live set, building it around the collar. But we'll
Yeah,
just have
definitely.
to see. It's so immersion breaking, then a little
Yeah.
wonky to do.
Well, because a lot of times you're not looking at your character from the front, you're looking at it from the back. So whenever you just see the hair clipping through whatever, it just looks awful like that. And like,
It
I
breaks the
don't know.
immersion, breaks the feel of it all. Like,
Yeah.
those are the rewards from have our personal opinions. It all is all cosmetic. Love to hear what others' perspectives, what you like, what you dislike, what you want to see different, and then specifically, what would you like to see from next hardcore's rewards? We touched on last season or last episode a ton of different options for the rewards, but not only that, but expanding the amount of rewards
Yeah,
tiers.
definitely.
Make it a 6K favor reward.
Yeah,
Make it super hard. Make a 30 Reaper point reward, and again, continue to ramp it up.
I don't even think 6K is ridiculously hard anymore with the amount of new quests that we have since it was introduced with Feywild, the new chain that just came out that I haven't run yet, and stuff like that. You're just getting more and more favor. Like, there's a ton of favor in the game that I haven't even done. Like, it'd be really cool to see extremely hard rewards where you have to run some end game raids to actually get them.
Yeah,
Like,
and that
make people get out of their comfort zone to get items. Like, make it so it's pretty tight. Like it'd be awesome to see people having to run like TOE 2 or something for a reward would be like really cool. Makes people have to do the harder quests instead of just being like, well, I'm just not gonna fucking do that because I don't fucking have to.
yeah, and it incentivizes and positively enforces hey, if you want to reach this reward, if you want to get this carrot, then here's the path that you have to take, and it pushes you to do that. And a part of pushing you to do it and reach a very difficult thing, you do that with other people, creates a sense of community. You create suddenly by doing that, you're spending so much time with a group of players that you're creating really good bonds with that, you're creating really good memories, and it's just what the core of an MMORPG really incentivizes for the people that do want to challenge themselves. They can surround themselves with people that also want to do that and create these bonds and connections that can last much longer than the singular reward, which brought people together.
And one of the slight issues with that though is if you're gonna do something like that, you got to make the reward really fucking awesome. Because like, if I had known that this was gonna be the fucking horse from the get go, I wouldn't even want to do 5K. Like, it just looks so bad. Like,
Yeah.
I would do it with our static group just to play with it, but I already dislike doing favor. I'm sure as fuck ain't gonna do 6K unless the fucking reward's awesome.
Right.
But that's the thing, is if there is a good reward, I will do it because it's awesome.
Yeah, you have that incentive. and that incentivization, having that incentive there is really really important. That's what we've been really focusing on. And the last hardcore season ended August, I believe, uh, around August September of last year, and so they had a very very large chunk of time. Granted, they dropped a expansion in the meantime, plus their regular content. They have time, and I would rather see a once a year hardcore event
with
that has
cooler rewards.
absolutely banger rewards, right? And an expansive host of, right, more rewards, but you keep it on theme so it's not as much manpower, not as intensive to make happen, but make things that really put time and effort in.
Yeah, I would love that too. Like, as much as I love hardcore, I'd like to see more of it. If you can't get rewards that make it actually worth the shit, then like you shouldn't be releasing it that often.
What was your take on this season's stance or choice from the developers to not show the rewards at all until
I
they
dislike it a lot.
you just like it?
I
What
think
about it, Jim? Do you
I
like?
the fact that like if I'm one of the early people that want to go for it, I don't fucking know if I actually care about the reward or not. So I could have just waste a bunch of time and then see, oh wow, you made this reward garbage and I don't want it, and now I've just wasted a bunch of fucking time.
Right, right.
Like it's
It has the potential to feel like you get some reward for getting to
you
the
feel
reward,
fucking
to
baited.
to getting to that point. But if you don't value that journey as much and just value that end product, then like I said, you feel baited and like it was a complete waste.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I just really dislike it. Like for the 5K thing, for example, I still would have done it for you guys, but if I was playing alone and I was like at 3,500 or whatever, and then I see the first reward, I'd be like, oh, good to know that I just wasted like 2 fucking full days or whatever because I don't give a fuck about this reward.
Right. Right. And so I do think that more transparency and communication is not only something that I want to see SSG do more, but they had the opportunity to do that and they actively chose to withhold that information for good or for bad. This is one side of the take on it of not seeing what is going to be happening does, or seeing what the rewards will be deters people from getting them, and at the same time seeing what the rewards will be will incentivize people to get them.
Yeah,
And
like if let's say, for example, I was playing solo or whatever, and they showed me the 6K reward if they do that or whatever, and it's fucking awesome. That's gonna make me play more often and want to get it faster because I'm like, dude, I want this thing. This thing is fucking awesome. Rather than being like, well, I don't know if I like the reward. I'll play a little bit. Like, I think it's just a lose-lose situation to not reveal the rewards. I guess like the hype around it could be kind of cool if it does turn out being cool, but like,
you have to
I
have a
think it's
lot of
still just better to
confidence.
show people because then you're gonna have more people being like, "Oh fuck yeah, I want to get that. That's fucking sweet."
Right. And it also holds SSG accountable to not be sort of skirting around and a little bit slimy with, hey, we're providing a server, providing a reward structure where you're incentivized to reach these rewards and to put in time and energy, and ultimately at the bottom line, because DDO is a pay to convenience, and on hardcore, a pay to win game, you buy your power on hardcore that you can't reach any other way. Um, you know, do this, we're providing you this platform, but we're not going to show you what that carrot on the stick is. We're going to say, hey, there's a carrot on the stick over there, but you don't know what the carrot is. You don't know if it's a moldy, like flaccid carrot,
Or
or
a
or
golden
a
carrot.
golden, just scrumptious one that you want to sink your teeth into. And so it definitely, I agree that it's more so on the lose-lose side. I value the journey a lot more than the actual reward itself. It is amazing when the reward is want to drive to get that. You really want to strive to get it. I think that that's when the best of all worlds come into play, because you have people like yourself who are very reward oriented and want to see that reward and get that, and that's the goal. Myself, what I'm doing along the way is really important, and it's completely both are a-okay.
Yeah, I've just always been a very competitive player, things like that. So it's just like, and I know there's more people like me that would like appreciate things like that, right? Like, I don't know.
Definitely, I don't think you're just a minority in that stance. So yeah, it's there's lots with hardcore that we'd like to see change. We'd like to see iterated on, continue to move on. They're doing things in a positive way. We think with the champions, with this idea of that, and then just having the server itself is grand. I do like that it is providing a platform for others to create their own challenges, like Dom, and then we can uh, hit on. We already touched on Dom before, with reaching that goal of Reaper Wings, the 5.6 million Reaper experience, and all the structure and thought and energy that's gone into that, as well as over a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yep. And so that's where hardcore is, where our take is on it. Do you have anything else you want to touch on, Morgie?
I don't think there's anything else that we really need to touch on. I think we've covered a lot of stuff that I didn't originally expect to cover, but I think was good stuff to cover.
Yep. Yeah, and looking forward to what hardcores have and will change in the future, as well as continuing to finish out our hardcore season, getting all of the rewards.
Not dying.
Not dying.
Only member of the group that hasn't died yet.
Yeah. The flawless run from Morgan.
I mean, Hayden only died to the fucking mimic thing.
True. Although he lost his sentient experience.
Yeah. But now the cousin's staying strong. Only people that haven't had a true death. Just saying. Better players.
He's a nut.